I'd like to call the Brimfield Township Board of Zoning Appeals to order for Wednesday, April 20th, 2022. Okay, could you please have a roll call?
Bruce Diffenberg.
Here.
Scott Etling. Dennis Baraco.
Here.
Ed Schutte. Sean Phillips.
Here.
William Kramer.
Here.
Clayton Poppett.
Here.
William and Kramer, you will both be voting members tonight. Also present is Mike Ladd, Economic Development Director and Zoning Inspector. Myself, Lauren Coughlin, Zoning Secretary. Brian Gardner, Brimfield Township IT Director, and Township Legal Counsel Mark Addetti.
We have an agenda. Is everything been duly advertised?
Yes.
Do we have a motion
I'll
regarding?
make a motion, we accept the agenda as presented.
We have a motion and a second to accept the agenda. Please have a roll call vote.
Bruce Diffenberg.
Yes.
Dennis Baraco.
Yes.
Sean Phillips.
Yes.
William Kramer.
Yes.
Clayton Poppett.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, if anybody or everybody who will be speaking this evening, doesn't matter what you're speaking on, if you'll please stand. Okay. And then just a quick swearing in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give before this board is to the best of your knowledge an accurate and truthful presentation of the facts? Just kind of take turns. If so, say I do, state your name and which case you are here for. We'll start over here, I guess.
I'm Dawn Carpenter. And you wanted to know what else?
Just which case you were here for.
For the one on the rezoning of the estate. Bowling.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And
I'm Brandy Roberts, the zoning for Wallen Point.
Jason Barber, Long Point.
Nicole Sawyer and I do zoning for Wallen Point.
Excuse me, Brian Lorenz, I'm here for the Walmart project. David Walmart for lot split. Jason Stefanski here for 2280 Selma Road, variance.
Heather Slinsky for the zoning variance as well for 2280. I do.
Jared Fumy for one.
John Russell getting here for the 2280.
all right, thank you. All right, we still have some old business. Request to reconsider BZA decision on grounds set forth in the Attorney Benjamin letter. So I believe that's why most of you are here.
So, Mark, can you explain this just briefly? It's up to the board if they want to entertain this motion or not.
Sure. I don't know if, I'm guessing at least some of you had read the correspondence that was posted to the township's website between myself and Attorney Ochner. The board had, in essence, continued approval of the minutes for that portion of the meeting from way back when at the applicant's request. The thought being that would delay the time for which the applicant must file a 2506 appeal in the Court of Common Pleas of any decision by the BZA. Tonight they have before you, it's my understanding, a request or a motion, a request that the board file or approve a motion to reconsider based on an amended application that came through Mr. Ladd. It is totally discretionary whether the BZA wants to make a motion to reconsider or not. It's certainly not mandatory under the law, but it is within your discretion. Under Robert's Rules of Order, the motion for reconsideration has to come from somebody who voted in the majority at the last meeting. So here, the variance request was denied, so somebody who voted to deny that variance request would have to actually make the motion to reconsider.
Is there enough, have there been any real changes to the application that we're aware of?
Yes, they're going to a 25-foot building separation.
Okay. So there is some substantial difference. Now, would there have been a difference between what we're doing and having them just reapply with the new information?
Their attorney did not want to do that. They wanted to reconsider. They didn't want to deny the past one and go for an additional variance at their request. This is a motion for reconsideration.
Okay. So before I open it up for a motion, is there anybody, is the applicant here first?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. If you would, let us know what it is you wish reconsidered here.
Well, am I allowed, I'm confused, am I allowed to do that, or do they have?
Are you allowed to do what?
Well, I just want to know basically what differences we're talking about aside from,
Doesn't somebody in the majority have to, I'm just confused.
So they haven't made a motion to reconsider yet. He's asking what the basis for the motion to reconsider would be. Why are you asking them to reconsider? I think is the.
yeah, that's
Well,
pretty much the
all right,
question.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understood. No, I'm asking to reconsider based on, we tried to come up with a compromise in terms of what's in the best interest of the neighborhood along with ourselves. I had numerous conversations with Jason Barber to do that. And to the best of our ability, we came up with a compromise. Us being the landowners, I'm here on behalf of the developer. You know, we weren't aware of some of the history that had transpired prior to entering into an agreement with them to have Caleb and build the homes, or to do this project. So I'm asking for the opportunity for the board to reconsider, and I think we've shown good faith in trying to do 25-foot setbacks. At one point, we had the homes closer to the road, we set them further back off the road. We went through 3 or 4 generations in terms of how to configure the second phase of the project. If I may.
He's not sworn yet.
Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give before this board is to the best of your knowledge and accurate and truthful presentation of the facts? If so, say I do. State your name and the relationship to the case.
I do. My name is Benjamin Hockner, and I represent, I'm counsel for Pride One, the owner. I think you have a copy of my letter of December 15th, 2021, in which we initially requested that your consideration of the minutes of the October meeting be tabled. And the reasons for that were that we wanted to have a chance, as Jerry said, to get together with residents, and we also wanted to come up with a way to see if you would be willing to reconsider your October vote. And then I set forth a number of considerations that I believe warrant your reconsideration. I listened to the meeting on, I guess, YouTube, and a lot of what was said was not very clear. or audible. And so I wasn't sure to what extent you were provided with all of the facts. And I know that you're aware, I think your zoning administrator is aware of other developments nearby, and I mean right nearby this property, where similar or even closer building separation has been approved very recently, I mean in the last couple of years. But that letter sets forth the grounds for the reconsideration. And if I could take one moment and address something that I'm not used to doing. I'm aware that in our efforts to reach agreement with the homeowners, I was optimistic, and I'm pretty sure that Jerry was as well. And in my communications with one of your lawyers, Mr. Gaddetti, I represented that we were working to come up with a plan that was acceptable to all, and that I thought that represented that we had reached an agreement with the adjoining property. And it turns out that the optimism was a bit premature. Having gone back, I saw a letter from one of the neighbors online, read it, and noted that my statements about the approval of neighbors was not correct. And so I would like to offer an apology to any of you who are frustrated or upset that your opinion was misrepresented in the course of my discussions with Mr. Gaddetti. There was an honest belief that things were moving in that direction. I'm confident that my client believed that there was wider spread agreement than what was indicated, but so please accept my apology for misrepresenting anything. There was no no malice or ill intent in doing so. And I'm hopeful that that part of this discussion is that we can put it to the side, not forget about it, but put it to the side. In going back to the neighbors, we didn't figure that if we could get everybody on board with us, you would have to approve us. Because I know I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that just because the neighbors say yes, doesn't mean that you have to. By the same token, if every neighbor under the sun comes out and vigorously opposes, that doesn't mean you have to say no either. And I'm sure that you're aware of that as well. But the mechanics of getting to this point on dealing with the neighbors did not go the way that I thought that they were going, and I'm sure Mr. Beyond that, I think you have our positions in my letter of December 15th. It's in the record. If any of you have any questions about that or anything else relating to our request, I'm happy to answer those questions.
If there are no questions, or if there are questions, please present them. I will entertain a motion as to whether or not we should reconsider our previous vote on this matter. I believe it was pretty much unanimous on denial, so anybody should be able to make the motion.
If that was the case, yep.
Ben, I'm not so sure you were here at that one. You were.
Any questions or further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Sure. Yes.
if I may add one thing. In reviewing some of the information that was submitted, I noted that that there was a concern that my client was relying on something, economic considerations, and that you shouldn't consider economic considerations, that they're irrelevant or something to that effect. Respectfully, that's actually not what the law is. Indeed, when a Board of Zoning Appeals is considering a variance, among the factors, first among the factors that have been laid out by the Ohio Supreme Court, and which apply in townships as well as municipalities, is the question of a return on investment. That's economics. And like I said, it's the first of the factors that the court enumerated in the case. So it's not true that economic concerns are not relevant. They are. They're not determinative, but they are relevant. And in my correspondence and to you and in my discussions with others, we have mentioned that we have a very thin, a razor thin margin in our ability to develop this property in an economically viable way. Economics are important in another sense related to that, and that is that if denying a variance or applying a particular provision of the zoning resolution prevents an owner from any viable economic use of their property, that's called a taking, and that is something for which the township or whatever governmental agency is in charge would be obligated by the Constitution to pay just compensation. So economics are important, and I'm hopeful that you will consider those and the other factors in your approach to our request.
And just to be clear, legal takings analysis should not be conflated with the BZA's traditional analysis of the Duncan factor that you guys consistently administer. So I want to be clear that those two concepts shouldn't be conflated.
I agree.
And I would like to do, if there's not going to be a motion to reconsider, then there's going to be a vote for approval of the minutes back on that we can't table. So either way, something has to be either a motion or.
Regardless of whether there's a motion to reconsider or not, yeah, you'll either have to vote to approve the minutes or decide to delay that again.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman. So first of all, I want to thank you for delaying the recording of the minutes because we were unaware of what had transpired. But just to reflect on where we're at with this, we started this project in 2006. The first phase, which still has vacant lots in it, was a disaster because of the recession. I mean, we're not making money. We're past that stage. What we're trying to do is mitigate losses and finish off a project that was started. We're trying to do it in a collaborative manner the best we could. I was unaware when we put this under contract with Dan Karam that he came in here and asked for 15-foot side yard setbacks. I didn't find out about that until way later. If I'm a neighbor in that subdivision, I'm upset. The township has allowed 20-foot side yard setbacks. They did it right across the street. Keith Mitchell from Palmieri, he was led to believe that that would be approved until we got to that meeting here. And that's when we asked you to sit tight, because in my history of developing parcels, I always try to be collaborative with the community and the neighbors. And that's where I was trying to find a happy medium communicating with Jason. So working with Kaovanian, they're a quality builder, trying to massage the site plan, doing the best we could to get as close as we could to a setback that made sense is where the plan is that you have right now. So a lot has changed in 16 years. You can't, it's virtually impossible to develop a project, the second phase of this project, like the first phase. I mean, back then, the cost of those roads were $300 a linear foot. Today, they're $1,200 to $1,300 a linear foot. And just the simple math is, we would love to develop it the way it was originally planned. But it becomes where we would have to pay somebody to take the land to develop it, which that's how upside down it would be. It's undevelopable if we don't come up with some sort of compromise. Now, I'm assuming, maybe wrongfully so, and I apologize, that nobody on this board wants to say, okay, let's take a step back and have a dialogue about what is in everybody's best interest. I'm sure the neighbors would appreciate having a community that was finished out versus driving in and seeing a dead-end road and a sanitary piece of concrete, that they look at every day on an undeveloped project. I mean, I would assume that it would be in everybody's best interest to have a community that's finished out that was planned for back in 2006. I mean, I think that's a reasonable thought. And even in my discovery of working on this, finding out that parcel is backed up to a parcel that the township owns that someday is going to be a park would even make more sense. So unless there's an ulterior motive or something else out there that somebody doesn't want to visit, I would love to listen to the homeowners, points of view and get their input. And I would love to figure out a way to come up with a compromise to finish the project out versus having attorneys talk and, do what they do. And no disrespect, but, we're not, I think Jason's been great. He hasn't told me everything I wanted to hear, but I feel like we've had positive dialogue in terms of trying to come up with a collaborative effort. I'm not trying to put Jason in a bad spot. He lives in the neighborhood. The neighbors are more important than I am. I respect that. I think that's the way it should be. But at least we were able to sit down and have a dialogue about, man, do you think something like this would work? Or do you think something like that would work? And, I don't know why, we couldn't do that this evening to try to get closure. And at the end of the day, if everybody's still, thinks this is stupid, then so be it. But, the alternative of hiring lawyers and doing this and doing that is just it's a waste of the township's time, the homeowner's time, everybody's time. And nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, somebody over there.
I'm not sworn in.
Hold on 1 second. After you swear him in, correct me if I'm not mistaken, but there's no motion to consider yet. So we should.
I really just wanted,
This whole conversation is the applicant providing the board with an explanation of why they're requesting the board to make a motion to reconsider.
Correct. So if you guys do make that motion,
then we would open it up to the room. So, yeah.
And I want to make sure that the record is clear when we're talking about side yard setbacks. I think we're actually talking about building separation.
Yes.
So that is we already approved the PRD for this proposed development, and the only outstanding issue is what the building, what you're prepared to allow by way of a variance from the building separation requirements. And our view is he's done it a few times in connection with developments right near this property. I think in the record, there's reference to a number of them. So that's the issue is building separation.
Okay. Does anybody feel comfortable with making a motion?
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to reconsider, but it doesn't mean that I'm in favor of, I would like to hear the homeowner's side also. So in order to open that dialogue, I'm gonna make that motion.
We do have a motion to reconsider. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reconsider for discussion. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Bruce Wickenberg,
Yes.
Vince Bernardo,
Yes.
Sean Phillips,
No.
Lynn Kramer,
No.
Clayton Hoffman.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Then we will have a reconsideration of the original plan. So, all right. I'd like to begin with, are we still looking at the same number of lots, or did we change?
The number of lots was reduced with this plan compared to what was previously submitted. And the biggest difference is because of the depth of some of the lots. Some of these are not quite 35, they're 30 feet deep, not 35 feet deep. And then we increased everything from 20 feet building side yard, or 20 feet building separation to 25 feet separation. The lots that are in yellow are even questionable with regard to even if they can be built on due to topography. It's questionable whether you can even build on the yellow one due to topography and so on and so forth.
Okay. I guess I should ask one other question before we continue. Do we need to change then on the original vote, and we decided to reconsider? We need to approve or disapprove those minutes from that meeting.
So you can do that at any point in time if you'd like. You could do that now. You can do it at the end of the meeting.
We have it on the agenda for the end of the meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that, I would just say stick with the agenda since you've approved it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there are fewer lots, and we are a little further apart, 5 feet.
Yes.
We're going from 20 to 25 feet.
Yeah,
Building
we
separation.
took a look at trying to do 30 feet, and it got to the point where it became, here again, it got to the point where it was cost prohibitive to do, given, what's the cost of installing the road was really what it boiled down to. Because that would just drive the asking price for the homes beyond what the market would support. Right now, these homes are projected to be $350,000 to $400,000. And, we start to put fewer units and you're gonna have to have a higher home sale price that the market wouldn't support. So we feel like we've pushed the equilibrium.
And how many homes is that at 30 feet or 35?
I don't recall the exact number. It wasn't, I think we lost, don't hold me, I think it was like 4 fewer lots, 5 fewer lots. I mean, that's how tight it is.
So with the yellow lots marked out as possibly unusable, this plan considers leaving open space that you still wouldn't be able to unload those lots. So why wouldn't they get absorbed into possibly making some 30 or 35 foot setbacks?
We don't know yet. We're not that, it's an unanswerable question at this stage. It's almost not gonna be answered until the engineering, it won't be answered until the engineering gets done. But to your point, it's possible that it could end up being open space.
Okay, so generally speaking, we look at hardship, which would be lead towards your financial difficulty or practical difficulty in building on land that's available, which may have something to do with the land, with those lots that you can and cannot build on. We also have a number of items in our book that we like to consider. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look through those things on chapter 4, beginning in section 400.1, general requirements for conditional use. There are 11 general and then more more specific uses. Mostly with dealing with remaining harmonious with the area. And I know that the original phase, those buildings are much further apart. Building type, are we looking at similar homes or?
There won't be any ranch style homes, there'll be 2-story homes. In terms of similar, I guess from a front elevation, they're gonna look similar. They are going to be deeper, than what's in the first phase. But they're gonna be similar, with their homes. And I wanna get back to something that Clayton brought up. Actually, you raised a great point because there's a stub road that's required by the county that goes into the parkland next door, which I thought was interesting because that stub road is going into a parcel that, the way I understand it, is deed restricted and never will be developed. So we have a road that goes to nowhere, but to Clayton's point, if you could make that road go away, you could start to, increase the, building setbacks more, but here again, we're obligated to county regs, right? So, it was an interesting point.
You're talking about this road that goes to Stubbs.
Yeah.
So that stems from fire code.
Yeah,
So, there's a way around the fire code that if it's stubbed out for future use, because the fire department is looking for 2 ways in, 1 way in, 1 way out, instead of the same way out. It's in the code that way, but if it's stubbed out for future uses, it can exist that way. And it's kind of like a stipulation in the code that all the fire departments are trying to get rid of, but it's there.
but it was something, to Clayton's point, we asked the question, it's like, okay, is there a way we can do this?
And I understand it has to do with the length of the road and the number of homes and so forth as to
Right.
at what point in time we need a second means of ingress and egress onto the property. Which leads-
It honestly doesn't make sense because it goes in the parkland.
Right,
And then even if we're gonna gain access, I think the elevation drop is like 12 foot. So it's not gonna happen.
which leads me to one of our other requirements, which is whether or not it becomes a hazard. In fact, that now we have, more vehicles, so forth, more traffic without the, I understand that you're saying the fire department, many of the fire departments should eliminate regulation, but that's the regulation requiring the stuff.
They're meeting the fire code as it's drawn.
Okay.
And keep in mind that this is what's the right way to say this? This is a generation, we had this approved in 2006. It's no secret that this was planned for a second phase.
Right.
That was preliminary approved in 2006. So, it was always intended to be this type of product. Obviously it's evolved quite a bit over, the years, but.
But it would have been a similar product with similar spacing and probably fewer homes, would be my guess.
And subject to the Great Recession, yes.
Yes.
And don't forget, the conditional use was approved for this. The only reason we're here is the spacing between.
Right, it's a variance as opposed to the conditional use.
Yeah, so I think you've already weighed in on the factors that go into the conditional use. And I think you've done that a few times, approved a conditional use, the PRD. And the question is really just the building separation.
Sure. Okay, I will go ahead, let's go ahead and open it up to some of the residents. Okay, you needed sworn in yet, so do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give before this board is to the best of your knowledge and accurate and truthful presentation of the facts? If so, say I do, and then state your name in relationship to the case.
Deborah Sandoval. I live at the corner of Walden Point and Wood.
Anthony Ventura, and I do. I'm the very last house on Walden Drive.
They'll be closest to you.
I'm most affected by it.
other than us.
Well, other than you, yeah.
Okay, so you're the two most affected, all right.
Do I have to sign in?
If you're going to speak this evening, please
Yes,
sign
I
it.
might have a question.
First of all, as far as the sewers, the concrete sewers, I'm okay with it. I look at it every day out my windows, and when the trees are blue, I don't even see it. So that's not even an issue. Second of all, as far as it being economical, I, back 7 years ago, called Jerry and tried to purchase that land from him. He offered it to me for $15,000 an acre. And we had, agreement of how it would be paid out. And I said at that time, that's out of my budget. As much as spending that much money, it was like $480,000. Excuse me. He wanted it over 18 months. I asked him if we could go back and do it in 2-acre sections at $15,000 an acre. And he told me, looked me dead in the eye and said, we can do that, but it's gonna cost you $50 an acre. So that's somebody that's trying to make money off the property, off of somebody who's willing to work with him to buy the property so that he doesn't have to continue paying taxes. With that being said, I've recently, in the last month, reached out to Jerry. I'm financially in a different situation now and wanted to work with him, maybe buying some of the property. He refused me to work with me. So as far as it being an economical thing, I was willing to work with him there.
Okay.
And he wanted to basically price gouge me because I couldn't do all of it at once, but was willing to do it over like a 10, 15-year period. And he refused me and told me it went from 15 an acre to 15 an acre. And the original plan in 2006 also had the Army Corps of Engineers was gonna come in and build a bridge at the end of the road for a secondary entrance. That came out on time. That was the original plan. That got approved by y'all. So we also, 5 years ago, had a power line get knocked down right at the bottom of the neighborhood. And everybody was locked in the neighborhood. We couldn't get out because there was not a second way to exit the neighborhood. So with adding all these homes, there has to be a second entrance or exit to the neighborhood. Thank you. Jeez.
That's my concern. We've been there for 35 years and, actually longer.
Yes.
The original plan was to have 2 entrances. You talk about the setbacks, the 25-foot setbacks, and that other allotments have been approved for such things. There is an allotment around us that doesn't have 2 entries and exits. So as far as being on the corner, I know it won't affect these folks, but it's an increase of 400% of the traffic coming in and out of there. And living on the corner, I know the traffic that goes in and out, and it is incredible. No offense, guys, I love y'all, but the traffic is absolutely incredible. It will increase it 400%, and when I think of all the other allotments on the road, the traffic on the road is, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be astronomical. And all the other allotments have 2. Some of them are definitely bigger, but, that is our concern is the traffic and, not another access. And, it was supposed to come out on Klein, but for some reason that has gotten blown away. I'm assuming because it's price. It all comes down to money, everything comes down to money. So that's my hard concern.
I just want to point out the one power line issue that's actually happened twice since we've been there, where the line's gotten ripped out, blocking the entire road, right at the entrance of the allotment. Yeah, it's 5 seconds. It literally rips the pole down, like the whole thing is broken.
Oh, yeah, we sure got a couple of times from our house when they were making the allotment.
It was 10 feet from our front door, because it snapped in half and then exploded. But it was several hours that was blocked.
And also the people who are fixing it. These people all live on Walden Drive, like I'm down on Dorchester, but they're also affected by the large traffic increase. There's also, this was, I don't know if you guys remember last time we did this, we turned in 61 signatures that we put together in like a half a day of people against us. Everyone we talked to was against us, minus one person. So it's more than just Walton Point. It's Klein Road, it's Molloy, it's Sugar Maple Hill. It's the entire area. Like, I mean, it's become, I know it's Ritz-Down, Winter Creek, that's, you know, a ton of traffic. You got Cranberry Creek, a ton of traffic. There's so much in that area in such a small time. It can't handle it. Yeah, and there's another 100+ houses coming in right down the road. So there's another increase in traffic. So there's more than just the residents of Bowling Point. So.
Which were not notified of this meeting because there was no letter sent out.
Yeah,
And so
we
we're
weren't
not
notified.
requesting the variance. I'd like to speak to you. Yeah. I might be a little all over the place because I have 50 notes jotted down. So we obviously see what the neighborhood looks like. We're not against it being built. I think most of us here are fine with how it is right now, but we know eventually it probably will be developed. The thing is, with different neighborhoods who've had a variance request for a lesser separation, generally speaking, they have not been developed, except for Sugar Maple Hills, which I think many of those residents are very unhappy now that they have houses jammed together. So what we want in our neighborhood, which I'm pretty sure I can speak for everybody here, is we moved into a neighborhood that didn't look like, you know, a Sterling Green, no offense to any of those neighborhoods, but just not what we wanted. We wanted our neighborhood to look more like Country View or what's that one? King Ridge. So we don't want a bunch of houses shoved in together. We think most of the reasoning is economic, which we've already gone over that, and to our understanding, the reasoning for an approval from you guys cannot be of an economic reason. So that's the impression we're under. Also, sorry. Jerry mentioned that none of the homes would be ranches. On our plan that's right here, it says there'll be 42 ranches.
I misspoke, I'm sorry.
Okay. Also, this plan is 3 less lots, just so you guys understand. I know we act like it, or they're saying it's many less homes. 14 of the lots are a 30-foot setback. So if you look at the variance request, they're saying it's a 35-foot setback, but 14 lots, which is a third, more than a third, are a 30-foot setback. So that's also against, you know, the variance that's in place. So we did try to come together as a neighborhood to come up with a solution, but I feel like primarily when going back and forth with the developer and Jerry, we were met with many threats from them. Like, they told us initially that this was gonna pass and there's nothing we could do about it, or they would sue. So we were lied to. They've attempted to blackmail us into buying into their plan. And so we feel like we cannot trust most anything that they are telling us. And so, you know, we just have a really hard time believing that they're gonna do what they say, especially, I mean, I feel like it's a point made right here when they say a 35-foot setback, and then 14 of the lots are 30 feet back. So, I mean, we're completely against this for multiple reasons. We are perfectly fine with you building according to the rules that we moved into Brimfield, that you guys had set forth, and we hope that you will stick to that to keep our neighborhood nice. That's it.
I just want to expand on that too. If I recall right, last time in October, we had this meeting. Mr. Mitchell basically said we could do 40 plus at following code. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, it can still be developed following code in a rather large number of houses following code. So there's, outside of monetary reasons, there's not much for a variance approval.
He said you could do 40 units?
That's what he said in the meeting.
Right.
Around 40.
So that differential between 40 and 47 is the land value. So we would have to give him the land for free
to do 40 units, therefore there's no value. And therefore there's economic hardship for us. That doesn't seem
We
fair.
got economic hardship here when we had to plow the road.
Every
ourselves,
investment faces
so-
risk.
Right, I mean.
But that doesn't
I'm
seem
sorry
fair to
that
us
that's the
either.
Scenario, but
One more, then we'll allow rebuttal here.
I've been dealing with Jerry since 2007, and Jerry has done nothing but lie. When I have contacted him, I even went up to the office in Medina, because I was the first homeowner on Walnut Drive. You wouldn't even come to plow the street for me to get out and go back and forth to work, because it was on 2 houses that you built on that street. The last meeting, you said the houses were $330,000. Now they're starting off with $350,000 because the feds have raised the interest rates to over 5% now, and the building materials are more money. So you are trying to profit off Walden Point.
I'm not building the houses.
Are
I'm
you,
not profiting.
are you selling the lot? Are you selling the lots to a developer?
Yeah,
Okay, so you are.
I'm
trying to
selling the
profit.
land, I'm not selling the lots.
So are you trying to profit then?
No, I'm selling the lots.
For
and-
more money?
No, I'm
Because-
selling the land. Let me finish.
Okay.
I'm selling the land. And that is just to recoup costs that we have into the project. We're not making money. There's no money left to make.
Tony, didn't he just say to you,
He tried to make that money back.
$15,000?
Yeah, I wish I'd
and then-
sold it to you back then too, but I have 2 partners that I have to answer to, and they didn't want to do it back then.
Every investment, there's a risk.
That's
Just
right.
like if we make investments as the homeowners, we make a risk too.
Right.
It's not our fault that the economy fell on you.
Jerry, you
And
built
cause
2
you that
houses
hurt.
back there. You've only built 2 houses in that development.
Right.
Right,
No.
2 houses,
Okay.
2 houses, my house and the neighbor's house, John's house. Those are the only 2 houses. So you're saying that the market took a hit. Correct, the market did take a hit, but it also bounced back and you still refused to build. You sold it to other builders so they could build, and each one of these homeowners had to go through the same variance.
We don't
That-
build homes anymore.
You sell it. You're right, you don't build it anymore. You only built 2 houses back there. You were in the business to build houses. You built 2.
Yeah, but prior to the recession, we built homes.
Correct. After the recession, you still were in the market to build homes. Then you went commercial. You went all commercial. Everyone,
commercial.
all of these homeowners had to go through the same variance that I had to go through. Anybody else that builds back there. Now you want to come in and develop, you want the developer to come in and change the variance so you can make more money and profit.
No, I'm not, let me, yeah.
Hold on, please.
Why don't you finish the last 4 lots that are empty on our lot right now before you start expanding?
Well, that's
Every
just,
other neighborhood does that.
yeah, K.O. Bennington has those 4 lots under contract as far as part of this project. So they would finish off the subdivision.
Didn't you offer to sell Jason one?
Minus selling him a lot, yes.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
But they're gonna, K.O. Bennington's gonna build on the other 3 lots.
Okay.
And if we can get closure here, Anthony, I'll be happy to sell you the other 2 lots or next.
I wouldn't buy a package on from you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. If you would, please.
If I may, I understand that there's a lot more involved in this than just the specific issue of the variance from the building separation requirement. All of the traffic stuff and a lot of the other concerns are probably wrapped into your approval of the PRD using the conditional use permit regulations. Traffic is also a matter for the county. And the county hasn't, the county's analysis of the requirement was, of our proposal was attached to my December letter. And I don't recall seeing anything about traffic in that.
So if I may, so
Yeah.
if this board approved the variance, your next step would go to regional planning. The
Yes.
PRD, in which the county engineer would then look at it along with soil and water.
Right. And thank you. And that's true. And if we ran into a problem there, we would have to deal with that. The township zoning matters to the county. obviously, but the county has its own issues that we would have to comply with. So I think between the county and, well, with the county considering these issues, they're going to accord you the same consideration that they would anybody else. As far as the economics of development go, while it certainly leaves, whatever taste with you guys of what has happened in the past, for the purposes of this variance, very respectfully, I'm going to suggest that the economic concerns that the BZA should take into account are the economic hardships of the developer, the owner. And specifically, if we take it a step further, while I agree with Mark that the economic considerations in conjunction with the variance aren't the same, it's not the same analysis for when you're talking about possible eminent domain or inverse condemnation or a taking. They involve economic considerations, and they really come down to if there's a hardship, which I think has been described by Jerry and in prior meetings where there was discussion about a pump station that needs to be replaced. So those are core, tangible financial burdens and economic considerations that should have an impact on your thinking. You may not like having more land behind you developed at a different, with different building separation, but that doesn't translate to an economic harm that the neighboring property owners will suffer if this variance is approved. I was unaware of the apparently developments for which variances were approved that allow for 20 feet building separation, that those developments have not been developed. Is that correct?
They're developed.
They're developed? Okay. And do they all have multiple ingress and egress, or?
The most recent ones do, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not so sure about every single one out there to answer your question, but the most recent ones do.
And so that I'm clear, there's Cranberry Creek, that was developed with a 20-foot separation.
Correct.
And also Sugar Maple Hills.
I'm not so sure if that was I believe those are a little bit spaced further than that.
Good. We have some minutes here. On October 21st, 2020, the board met to consider a zoning variance for Hickory Creek LLC. There was a requirement of a 15-foot side yard, and a variance of 5 feet was requested, which would then make it a 20-foot building separation.
Mm-hmm.
And the variance was approved.
The variance was approved. You asked
Yeah.
for Sugar Maple stuff.
I'm sorry,
Creek didn't have any homes in it.
I apologize. I mixed up Sugar Maple and Hickory Creek. So Hickory Creek has been approved and Cranberry Creek was approved.
Correct. It's not platted yet. So Hickory Creek is approved through the board here, but it's not been platted yet. It's still going through regional planning to get platted. There's an extension of time granted as there's some bonding issues and things like that. So there's no homes in Hickory Creek.
The road that's been mentioned, the climb, was that on the original conditional permit?
Not on this one here in October, no. So-
No, I mean, the variances for building envelope for side second,
That would be it. So as far as the fire department would be concerned and engineering would be concerned, that would be a non-issue. Because what Mike Wallen explained at the last meeting, this road to nowhere here meets code. So even though it doesn't have two entrances, one in and one out, this meets and satisfies the code both for the engineering and the fire department. So for this board, it wouldn't be an issue as far as code issue.
Well, I'm not talking about code issue, I'm talking about the original conditional permit. Did it provide for a second road?
The original permit would be the one that's not expired, right? So that would be October. The one that came back in 2006, I don't even have records for.
Okay.
So anything.
Wait, I got
We got
it. Okay, no.
But as far as official copies with us,
Right.
there's absolutely nothing that we have. There were 700 plans back in outbuilding shed that we scanned in. So if it's not within those 700 plans that we had scanned in, it doesn't, we don't have it.
Okay.
Army Corps might have something if they were involved, I don't know what the intentions like, but.
And regional planning might as well.
And there are wetlands right there too, so that's why Army Corps probably, there's a lot more to it.
Well,
Talking
and
about
then,
side yard setback.
but then, then again, like I say, it's kind of a non-issue because when Mike Wallen was in, he explained that the wetlands have increased. And that was his original hardship for the first separation was because the wetlands have increased and they had to shrink the homes. That, I don't know if you remember that.
I do, I remember the original. I mean, I'm curious, is it possible to put in another road?
I doubt it,
Okay.
because if it was, they would have, Mike would have laid it out that way. So I would say no.
Why do you doubt that there can't be a second road put in?
To his point, there's wetlands in that area.
A road can be built.
But
If we could have put it in, what's that?
The issue at hand, just to draw everybody back in, is not the road.
Right.
I understand that.
The variance is for the 25 foot, so I don't want to go down a road that.
I understand it, but the goal of the developer, the goal of the landowner is to reach some agreement with the neighbors.
I think if we did what the original agreement was, we would all be okay.
I was only bringing it up as a question, so.
No, and I understand that point, and it's at your discretion if you would want to submit and ask for a traffic study.
So Chairman, we would love to not be here asking for a variance. We were led to believe that a 20-foot setback would have been approved. And then when that didn't happen, I'm trying to come up with a compromise. And the fact of the matter is today, 16 years later, we live in a different world. And that's why you're seeing tighter setbacks all over, not just here, all over the country, because it's just, I talked to an excavator a couple weeks ago and he doesn't even know what he's paying for pipe until it shows up on the site. And that's the world we live in today.
And I
I don't know what to say.
And I understand the whole purpose of the PRD is to bring the homes closer together so there's less roadage that eventually the township will have to take responsibility for. And the county will have to approve and so forth. No, I understand that aspect of it. I don't want to create something that is so different from what's there.
I don't think you are. You know, like I said, I mean, they're gonna be nice homes. They're gonna be, you know, Calvanian builds a nice house.
Yes, I've seen their homes.
Yeah, so I don't think of creating anything that is abnormal per se. In our perfect world, everything would have been built back in 2007, 2008.
So what you're looking for is 25 foot between homes, so 12.5 foot setback, or are we looking for just building envelopes that are 25 feet apart?
They're 25 foot building, yeah, separation.
I'm just curious, though, is it from the property line, we're looking at 12.5 feet? Or might this home be 5 feet off the property line, which means that the one next to it has to be 15 feet off the property line, or whatever, 20 feet off the property line?
They're shown as 12.5 feet.
Everything will be 12.5 feet off the property line.
Everything I see
Yeah, they're not gonna do that.
so far is at 12.5 feet setback.
I just wanted to clarify.
No, it's fair.
I'm wondering if it can increase his house units, if it was going and spreading the houses out further. I'm just curious. In the existing phase one, there's empty lots in there. Are you guys considering building into those?
Calvanian, with the exception of one lot, will build their homes on those other 3 lots.
So I'm just wondering if your numbers would increase if you're.
That's been taken into account already. No, great question, but that's been taken into account.
What was the answer?
No, it's been taken into account with regard to,
You're building into the one lot that King of Indian is not gonna build on, is
Yeah.
what you're saying with your current proposal.
yeah.
Sorry, I'll be pretty quick. I just want to say, the bottom line is, like, Jerry, you were led to believe you would get a 20-foot, separation between the houses, but we were led to believe when we bought in that neighborhood that every single home would be 35 feet apart and 35 feet back from the road. We can give you 100 reasons why, maybe we do or don't like it, but I think what's the most important is that's what we bought into with our homes. So whether the economy's changed or not, we bought into a neighborhood that would look like that. If we wanted to be in a neighborhood that was different than that, we would have bought into a different neighborhood or into a different city. Brimfield and Suffield, when I bought into this area, there were no 20-foot separations. And I honestly wish that there have never been in this area because we like the country feel. And so we want to keep that in our neighborhood, and that is where we stand. We want them to have to follow the same rules that we were promised when we bought in, because we don't feel our investment is going to be the same if we're squishing in a bunch of houses and looking like every other neighborhood that's going up.
I'm just.
The side setbacks on the current should be 15 feet, correct?
Correct.
So it's 30 feet separation.
We're 35.
35.
We're 35.
They're 35. The code is 35.
35 feet back from the house. Or from the road.
So the code is 35.
17, it'd be 17 and a half.
So it's not, I thought it was
It'd be-
15 foot.
It'd be 5 foot on either side of the property.
That's why I built there, because I built my house there. That's why I built there, but because of the separations from the neighbors, number one. And number two, I sacrificed because I wanted to put in a 3-car garage, but could not do it because the homeowners association with the setback rules did not allow me to put a 3rd-car garage because of the width of my lot. Now, if that was the case, when I built my house, I could have put a 3rd-car garage. But I couldn't then, and I sacrificed and I built my house anyways because of the country feel and the 35-foot space in between homes.
I have one question, and it's just maybe as a compromise. So you have an open space block E, and it looks like you have near 3 acres of land that satisfies your open space requirement with the board.
Yeah,
What if the board were to grant you a variance on the open space requirements, so you could spread the houses out further and use that 3 acres?
that block E is, you can't develop on it because of the topography so steep it's impossible.
Is it steep there?
Yeah, that's why it's there.
Sorry, just my last thing, I promise. I still think it's important to note
that this says the principal building space requirements, the minimum separation between dwellings shall be 35 feet. Okay, so that's that one. But when we talk about space from the road, a third of the houses, so 30% are not 35 feet back. So there are actually two things here. It's not just the separation of the houses, it's how many feet back they are from the road,
So
which will not be.
It's not a variance on our code now, Peter. That's the thing.
So what you're reading from is
What they were originally built at and what the PRD actually got approved.
PRD
in the
was approved
resolution.
they're not your homeowner association.
Correct. That's
Okay.
not a variance, but it would be HOA.
Well, that was part of the variance request, correct? For them was the original?
No.
To go
So we were approved originally as the PUD,
Right.
which is
And the
the
code
35
changed.
foot setbacks. I just want to point out, like I said, to the whole thing, like, and I think this letter covers a lot of it, but as far as like, you know, in the fifth paragraph of the letter over there, it says only a few lots are next to Walden 1 and Walden 2. We don't have to drive past it, this and that, but we just want to, like, we live there. Like, no one goes around like this, like, we all have eyes, we live in our lot. So, we have all these people outside telling us how great everything's gonna be. We live it, like, we know what, like, we're okay with the way it is, like, everyone loves their wooded views. Everyone wants, like, no one wants to see a bunch of junk in everyone's backyards, basically.
But you always knew the second phase was always planned, and at some point it was gonna get developed. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
I'm Brandy.
Brandy?
We're fine with this.
No, so I appreciate everything you're saying, because you're saying a lot of great things. And I feel bad for the board, because I think the board's in a tough spot, because in the same breath, you know, we're coming in here and saying, okay, you guys granted 20 feet across the street or wherever, you know, we're trying to come up, bless you, and we're trying to come up with a compromise, and we're at 25 feet, and yeah, the world's changed compared to when you moved in, you know, I you know, where I live at, I wish, you know, houses didn't get built around me, that ended up happening.
But you chose to move there.
And so did you.
Right.
With the setbacks that we were told according to the rules
So,
were gonna be.
Well, the next to your house, Tony, the setback's gonna be extreme anyways, because there's a block B between you.
But I got three houses looking into my backyard, which I spent $35,000 in my backyard. So what kind of economical hardship is that to have neighbors staring down in my backyard where currently I have privacy?
Okay. So,
And you offered not to sell me the land, you told me you couldn't, but yet just a few minutes ago in front of everyone, you said, I'd be happy to sell you the land.
if we did something that I could sell you, I can't, I'm not allowed to sell you anything that's not approved yet.
But you just offered to sell me the land.
Sure, I'm trying to
be approved it.
Okay, please. The current setback is 15 feet?
35.
No.
There's no setback to the property lines. The way the code is written is it's 35-foot building separation.
Got it. So we're the
We're
variance.
at 25 right
The
now.
variance is that it would be at 10 foot, and again, they wouldn't necessarily have to be 12 and a half feet off of the line. Correct. Just so long as each house was shifted
Right.
appropriately.
Now, Michael's making a good point. The front yard setback, what is the least amount it could be?
You're at, so the PRD changed from when their houses were built. So we're not here for that.
No, I understand, but I'm trying to make a point. So we could be 20 or 15 feet off the road on the front.
If you ask for a variance.
So that we're at the minimum of 30.
Correct.
Okay, so we've made an effort to not make them all 30, you know, that.
35 foot. So
Yeah.
35.
Okay.
So the current one would be 35 feet.
Correct.
So all your setbacks off the road right of way
Comply.
are
35.
have to be 35 feet.
No.
That's, so but back then, there was a different code. There's a, you know.
This
different
complies
set of
now,
rules.
whether it's 30 or
This is
35.
what the code is.
Yeah,
now.
I'm good.
So there are lots that are 30 foot comply? Or are there no lots that are 30 foot?
There are lots that are 30 and they comply under the PRD, if I understand what he's saying.
You know what, let me take a look at your code really quick.
I'm sure they comply or else Mike wouldn't have done it this way.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
So if we eliminated the stub road and eliminated 5 lots, you would have to increase the sales price of your lots by about $6,390 per lot. $6,390 is what you would have to get per lot more if you eliminated 5 lots. If you eliminated the stub road and 5 lots,
Which they can't.
why can't you eliminate the
But
stub?
Portage County code, you need it.
You have to
Even
have
if
it.
even if it's a fake egress, they have to have it.
30 feet.
That's what that's what Mr. Ladd explained to us.
So even if you didn't eliminate the stub road, if you eliminated 5 lots, you'd have to increase your cost by $6,390 per lot. In the economic environment that we are in right now, is $6,390 going to stop you from selling the houses just as fast?
Not the homes.
As you would sell them otherwise, lots.
And the
Selling
answer
the
to that
lots.
is yes, none of the builders will pay more than what we got right now. I have pushed them as far as I could push them to try to make the project work to get closer. $6,300 per lot is a deal breaker. And that's how thin the builders are on. That's how thin a margin the builders are. They're not killing it either. They're on tight margins too.
No, I'm mistaken on that. Minimum setback from proposed local public road right of way should be 25 feet.
That's what I thought.
Minimum separation between dwellings, 35 feet.
So we could be 25 feet off the road, and I think that was one of the drawings that we had. And Jason asked if we could push it back to 35 to mesh with the first phase of the neighborhood, which we were willing to do. Now that, here again, to your point, Bill, those 10 feet times X number of lots is an additional cost. But here again, we were trying to comply everywhere we could. The only reason why there's 30-foot front yards on some of these lots is because of the depth of the home. I mean, I was trying to get there, I was trying to compromise, I was trying to get there. And I got Calvanian to agree to not 25-foot front yards, but 35 to 30 foot.
Okay. Do you have any more questions from the board? Do you have a motion regarding the 10-foot variance for side? So we're actually looking at separation between lines, we're not looking at distance from the property line.
Correct.
We're looking at a total 10-foot variance for the distance between the homes or building. Any further questions or discussions? These yellow lots, you arranged with your builder that they may or may not be able to build on them?
Right, until Mike does full engineering, we're not gonna know whether they're buildable.
Without those 5 lots, you may end up at 35 feet, so how do
We
you
might.
know? This is whole thing is premature, then, is it not?
No, because we have to go through this process first before nobody's gonna spend money on engineering. The developers aren't gonna spend money on engineering until we know we've got something approved. We're gonna do everything we can to make those buildable lots.
Catch-22.
Yeah, we're gonna do everything we can to make them buildable. The developer will.
Are we waiting on soil reports? Is that what you're doing on those lots?
No, the developer doesn't wanna spend money on engineering unless they know they've got.
No. I'm saying on the yellow lots.
Oh, yeah, we don't know. The developer Mike doesn't know if those are, or they may or may not be buildable. There are questions.
Because of
What are the questions?
Topography and grading, so on and so forth. So nobody's gonna spend money on full engineering. I guess in one way to look at it is we're presenting you the worst case scenario is what's here. And if we make the assumption that they're all buildable, then that's your worst case scenario.
Well, but even if these were not buildable, you couldn't move the homes that way anyway.
Correct.
So we still need
Yes,
the
correct,
variance.
correct.
If you can't build on them, you can't move homes onto them.
In the best case scenario, they don't get built and they're open space. Correct.
Got it.
Explained it better than I did.
Just trying to make it clear in my own head.
Mine too.
Okay.
That's what, last meeting, I did say, the only two that might not be able to be built on are the ones next to the lot E open space. These ones just don't have a big enough a window for the larger ranch homes. If I remember right from what Mr. Nichols said last time. Or no, I made up some emails.
Was there some change in that, or has this?
I'm just going by what Mike told me.
Okay, has this changed much from the last plan that we looked at as far as home locations? Did we we lost a couple lots, and that's how we gained the extra 5 feet?
Yeah, I gave, how many,
2, 3, whatever.
Last time?
How many different layouts did I give you when we were talking? 2, 3?
One was like a markered up one, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that's my point.
I think that was this one basically.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's tried to massage how best we can, if we could get the 17 or 27 feet apart, we would, Everybody's tried to massage the whole thing to the best of everybody's ability to satisfy the concerns of the neighborhood. And this is about as good as we can get.
I guess has there ever been a drawing of Plan B to show the 35 foot and to assume that all of these lots were buildable? And then if they became unbuildable, they're coming in for a variance at that point?
No, because that's the problem is if we did what you suggested, the problem is the math still doesn't work out because then we would have, the land becomes of no value and we'd have to pay the builder.
Well, I guess at what point do you decide that it's buildable?
This is like the break-even point for a developer, not me.
Right.
To make actually less than what would be a typical margin on selling the lots to the builder.
I guess what I'm asking is, and I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that there's a huge question to get both parties in agreement, and the question exists, are these buildable lots or not, because that changes the whole outlook and layout of the drawings to go from, meeting code and not meeting a variance to meeting a variance, but you're saying that, this board has the right to authorize and say, well, do your homework and let me know, are they?
I don't think that's the case. I think the way Bruce explained it is more correct, because even if those lots aren't buildable, we can't spread the units out over that piece of land because it's not buildable.
But we don't know that.
Right, so in a worst case scenario, or in a best case scenario, those yellow lots become open space. In a worst case scenario, they're lots, but you're never gonna be able to spread those lots over those yellow blocks.
But you're asking for a variance based on the possibility that they're not buildable.
No, I'm asking for a variance based on the possibility that they are buildable. We're gonna do everything we can to make them buildable. We're gonna do everything we can to have a buildable lot there.
If they are buildable, then you could technically go to the correct footage between the lots and still not lose any money then.
No, because you lose the number of lots.
Which ones would you lose? The yellow ones we're not counting in right now because
no, they are in the count. They're in the count. They're in the total count.
So
I understand I see what I'm saying. It's just if we were to come and do a traffic study and they said, hey, do a traffic study, we're worried about both that entrance and exit.
Mm-hmm.
You get an engineer to come and give you an accurate study based on that data. And I'm saying, why can't we get an accurate statement on those lots, are they buildable or not? I mean, because you're making a decision on assumptions.
Right, and I'm giving you the worst case scenario that we're assuming that they're going to be buildable, because we're gonna do everything we can to make sure they are. Now, I guess it really doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter to the board if we decide not to build on a lot, we leave it vacant, but.
But if it's economical hardship and you can't build on those 5 lots, then you're being affected financially by not being able to build on them. So
Right.
why not space them out? Why not space them out to the 35 foot, which is all we're asking you to do, that's all we want.
Just assume that they're buildable, and we're gonna build on those lots, that's the best thing for the BZA to look at right now, because that's our intent, is to build on them.
So I'm a little bit confused, and I know it's not really my place to ask, but are you saying the project's not economically feasible if those 5 yellow lots aren't buildable?
No, I'm not saying that.
So if that's the case, I think Mr.
No, I'm not finished. What I'm saying is, there's a price for the land for the blue blocks, and then a lower price if the yellow blocks can't be built. And either way, we're not making money. We are losing money on this project. So it's just a matter of how much we're losing, is what I'm saying.
My
So
point is,
we're gonna try to build. We don't know if we can build on there yet until they fully engineer
I
the
get
site.
that. If the project can proceed, even if those lots aren't feasible, you're not counting, yes, it's a lower profit margin, but you're
It's
not,
don't use the word profit, it's not profit.
whatever you want to say, it's less of a loss, however you want to
A
phrase it.
negative profit margin.
But if they are buildable, I think Mr. Ladd's point was, you can expand the building separation. Yes, it'll be not as economically beneficial to you, but the project is still feasible. You can increase the separation that way if in fact those 5 lots are buildable. Is that what you were getting at?
Absolutely.
And the other question I have is, I know
And I
this,
think
I
it's
know
a
they told us.
I don't think that's it. I think the problem is the difference between 35-foot setbacks and those 2 yellow lots, that differential is so big, so large, that even if we could do 35-foot lots, it still isn't going to make sense, even if we can take those 2 lots and try to spread everything out.
So there's 4 lots.
Well, okay, it's still my point is the spread between 35 feet and 25 feet, I'm not being clear. The spread between 35 feet and 25 feet is so vast as far as the quantity of lots, it makes it unfeasible. Even if, because we had a layout of 35 feet incorporating all of that area where those footprints are at. And it was unfeasible to build with 35-foot setbacks. That was the first thing we looked at, obviously. And it incorporated that space.
And what did that get you for the separation?
The number of lots, I don't recall it.
Taking the yellow lots into consideration, spacing wise, what did that get you instead of the 12 and a half that you're looking at now? Where did that get you if you did equal separation?
What do you mean get you? Number of lots?
Separation wise.
No, we took, let me, I'm not being.
Okay, so how many lots did you come up with when you said?
I don't
35 feet?
recall the number of lots that we came up with at 35 feet, but I do know it was financially impossible to do the project with that.
Okay.
Which is why, because that was the very first drawing that was done.
I
It
guess
was
that's
still
what
on
I'm
this
confused.
same.
It doesn't make sense.
But
No,
that
it does
was-
make sense. When we did a drawing of 35-foot lots, and I forgot the quantity of lots, but whatever that was, it was financially unfeasible to do the project. That's why Danny Karam came in here 2 years ago and did 15.
But if you lose the yellow lots, it's the same number.
No, it isn't. It
How
was.
is it? I guess that's where I'm lost.
It's not, because the area of these yellow lots times 35 feet setbacks is greater, you're gonna lose, I don't know what the number was, I want to say it was about 10 lots. And that 10 lot differential is enough to kill the project for the builder and the developer.
Okay, so I do know
But
they
well,
told us.
I guess the number, so you're saying that you figured it out at the code first?
Yeah.
And then came back?
We did it, we didn't even talk to you, we figured it out at the
Well,
code.
my question was, and what Mark was trying to, maybe I'm saying it wrong, is if you eliminated these 4 lots and spread the houses out, there's your compromise, whatever that distance is, whether it meets the code or it's a variance, whatever that is.
Additional separation.
So if I
It's going to,
eliminate these 2 lots.
4. Actually, 5.
Let's just start with these 5. If I eliminate these 2,
Yes,
and you're telling me if I spread these over here.
correct.
Okay, well, that's where we're not. If these 2 are unbuildable.
And you're gonna spread it to this.
No, wait a minute, don't worry about that yet, let's just use this as an example. If these 2 are unbuildable, and I spread these lots, I can't, if they're unbuildable, they're unbuildable, I can't spread it, I can't move that.
But if they're buildable, you're gaining 2 and
But I'm losing 5 units, those 5 units, the builders, like, K-Albanians looking at it from a unit standpoint.
Mark, am I saying something wrong?
No, you're saying.
Okay.
No, but the builder's looking at, the builder's not going to, let's say this for example. Maybe the cutoff point for K-Albanian is 47 lots. If we go to 42 lots, they're not going to do the project, or the developer's not going to do the project. Because now the dollars aren't there's not many dollars different though.
When you first built, just came up with a lot, K-Romania wasn't even in your thoughts. It was touched on the builders that was gonna build a lot of houses back there.
That was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Touchstone Builders is out of business.
So the question I have though is, and I know they talked about this the last time and it just slipped my mind. The 2 30-foot openings, those are what easements to, for the pump station, or I can't remember.
One of those easements is next to me and there's a sewer line.
Sewer lines,
There's a
okay.
sewer line there.
And the homeowners association would take care of those?
I mow personally.
That's what you do.
Yeah,
I'm just
because,
saying.
you know, and that's the other thing, we have all these lots that are, the 4 lots that are empty, and if these 5 don't get developed, who's gonna cut these lots? Currently, when these lots get waist high with weeds and grass, and I've actually gone out there myself and mowed them and got stung by bees, because I hit a hornet's nest, who's gonna maintain those lots if he can't make money and build on
Well, and this is one of his points.
them? Right, and he can make those lots bigger next to him and sell them as bigger lots.
I think there's a key point that we're missing, is are they doable or not? And the board is at your discretion. You can send it back and have an engineering analysis to find out if they are doable.
To be frank, I'd like to find that out, and I'd like to find out the feasibility of another road, whether or not it's necessary, traffic study.
I would agree with Bruce. I was doing a little bit of math here, and this is an exorbitant amount of cars for one entrance. I mean, comparing it to similar neighborhoods, Sterling Green, based on the amount of ingress and egress that neighborhood has, it's 50 cars per entrance. This is gonna be 94 cars just in phase 2 alone. I didn't even count the houses in phase 1. And you're looking at roughly King Ridge, a larger neighborhood that was thrown out. That's 40 cars per entrance based on the rough house count that I did in that neighborhood. So, I mean, I think this is one of the most dense single entrance neighborhoods we've ever, at least in
And
my
I
time.
can understand if they just go with the 35 foot, they're allowed to build it the way it is, and instead of 90 extra cars, it's gonna be 80 extra cars or whatever. But, I personally, that's what I feel, is I'd like to find out the impact. We're talking about safety of the community. I want to find out what the traffic impact will be, and I understand that you could build it at 35, and if you found a builder that would do it, you would still end up with 80 extra cars as opposed to 90 extra cars or whatever. Those would be a couple questions I would like answered before I make my decision. If you're willing to come up with the studies.
So we'd have to have Mike determine whether those lots are really buildable or not.
That's my suggestion to the board.
And I would like to find out about the traffic.
Traffic is,
I think it's a good compromise, because if it's buildable, it changes the whole outcome.
Or do you even consider 30 instead of 25? I don't know.
And it might not be code yet. You might spread them out and only gain 2 feet per house, but it's
Right.
going to be something.
Well, that's the whole reason why we're here, because we've been attempting to do something, so I'm not closed-minded to try to figure that out. I mean, if we could try it, I would love to do that.
I mean, I think it's a good idea.
So, I mean, that's where I'm at.
Because then you do have a true hardship. If-
Sure, I understand it.
If it's unbuildable and the engineer comes back, well, this open space, you got 12 foot here and the wetlands and the trees. Now you've got a hardship, but it's also gonna make the residents happy because you're spreading the houses out further. At least it's worth a shot.
I can talk to Mike and see what we can come up with to, for lack of a better way to say it, memorialize what's exactly up there. And if there's a way we can add another foot or 2 between units, I mean, obviously we'll do it, if I can make that work with KOA.
And the other thing I'd like to find out about would be the possibility of a traffic study. Now, if your traffic study says it's not dangerous, I want that on paper.
I can't do a traffic study because of the cost at this stage. And I don't know that we're required to do that.
The board can ask you to do it.
Really?
I know from living there on the corner, the traffic is incredible, just from 14 houses.
Traffic is part of this. But, you know, Mike has done, I can tell you that Mike has done traffic studies in the past with similar other projects, as well as GDC. They weren't that expensive.
Okay. So I gotta convince the developer to pay for that, which I can do. I'll give it a shot.
Then we would be looking at a motion to table based on obtaining further information from the owner.
So, and to make it easier, so maybe you guys are sitting around, it would be a motion to table the matter until such time as the applicant submitted both a traffic impact study as well as an engineering study regarding the feasibility of building on the 5 yellow lots. And you may also want to table approval of the portion of the meeting minutes until that time as well.
We have a recommended motion. Do we have anybody that wants to make it?
I'll recommend the motion of what he says. Because I can't repeat it.
Going by legal counsel.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table it based on recommendations from legal counsel. A roll call vote, please.
Bruce Steffenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Baraco.
Yes.
Sean Phillips. Yes. William Kramer.
Yes.
Clayton Powell.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so, as tabled, anytime there's a meeting, it will come up. So if you want to be here in any of our meetings that we have.
Yeah, so there's no letters going out, you know, it's a continuous, we don't send letters out again. But we will have everything on the everything, yep. Everything's, yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are more than welcome to stay, if not, we're gonna continue on.
That's right, we have got a lot more to go here. Thank you.
Well, guys, we can't do the rest of it now.
Pleasure. Okay.
No, I signed the split. It's for the flagship. Nope, you're good.
Just trying to get clear.
You're good, yep.
Okay, that was the Pride one, okay. So the next one is Jarrett Fleet Services.
They want to continue.
Are they here this evening?
No, we had correspondence from them that they no longer wish to go forward with their sign based on the size that was approved at the previous meeting. They said that it won't meet what they want to do, so they are not looking to continue this.
Okay.
So you guys can make.
So we need a motion. Says applicant is asked to come back before the board at a later date, or not?
I would,
It's withdrawn.
it's withdrawn.
So you can move on.
Okay, so it has been withdrawn.
Yes.
The record would reflect that it's okay. The next one is a zoning variance application. Michael James, Anchor Corp., Grant Oil LLC is the owner. Variance request, applicant is requesting a variance for a sign face greater than 32 square feet. Is the applicant present? Oh, this was the marathon sign, right? Okay.
I believe so. Yep.
Do we have a motion to give them the benefit of the doubt and ask them to return next month, or do we just motion to
Did
deny?
they ever say they weren't coming or?
Last time I spoke to them, they were going to be here. It wasn't going to be, the woman who applied, but it was going to be someone else from the company.
We check to make sure nobody's standing outside.
Are they just adding to the existing sign?
Can't, Mr. Chairman, can we approve this without them being here?
No, but we can either deny it or table it, table it and give them another month. Those are our options. Do we know what it is they wanted with the sign? I mean, or are we just, because we have to reapprove the existing sign, or they wanted to, we don't know anything about it?
Nope. Other than they applied and
Well, they're not,
Aren't they just adding the diesel sign to the existing sign?
couldn't tell.
We have no idea.
Oh,
They got an application come to the board.
Well, let me see, yeah, let's take a look at the
It's the sign
application.
face shall not see the 32 square feet. They're asking for greater than that, didn't specify the exact. I couldn't, I didn't want to speak on the matter because.
We have the application, and I'm going to guess that looking at the photograph, they want to add
we want to add the
the
diesel.
diesel sign.
Yes.
I think they need to come.
Which would just be an assumption.
Yes, the variance is to allow the diesel prices to be added to the existing pylon sign.
As a courtesy, since they're not there, you don't know if they have COVID, you don't know if they're sick. Maybe,
I make a
maybe
motion
make a
to
motion.
extend it,
Table it for next meeting.
yeah.
Do we have a motion to table? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table until next meeting. Roll call vote, please.
Bruce Wickenberg.
Yes.
Mike Panaka.
Yes.
Sean Phillips.
Yes.
William Kramer.
Yes.
Clayton Hopper.
Yes.
Okay, our next is a conditional use application. David Duvall. Conditional use request, applicant is requesting a conditional use approval to create a flag lot. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir. Tell us about your flag lot.
I would like to add, there's sewer now available down the street so that I could split the property and meet the, before I couldn't get a septic permit for it. And to put I'm debating either a single family home to sell or a duplex to sell.
So recently the code has changed. Zoning commission has redid the zoning along 43. So 43 corridor is GC, but everything off of Brimfield Drive, how all the side roads going off are now residential. That went through the process of public hearing as well as going in front of the trustees regional planning has approved it, trustees have approved it, and it takes effect May the 6th. So if you do approve the flag-shaped lot, which he's requesting, I would put it in here, if you do approve this, make a motion to be effective where he wouldn't be able to do anything until May the 6th.
So this
There's
is,
there's a 30-day wait period for the law.
so and then of course, then that would also depend on whether or not somebody didn't go out and get the signatures to put it on the ballot.
For what?
During those 30 days, that's why there are 30 days.
Referendum you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so what we're looking at is you currently have 180.16 acres, feet frontage, and you want to break off 60.16 feet
Yes,
to create that lot.
correct.
And the 125 foot, there's a house there now, or?
Yeah, there's a duplex there now, 2 units.
Okay. And how close is, where's the duplex at on this lot?
I don't have the exact amount. It's about, I believe it's 35 feet. I'll give you the one with the paper on it. It's, I don't.
35 feet.
Yeah, it's 35, okay.
So it does meet code.
Okay, so the duplex would be 35 feet away from the new property line.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is why we can't move the property line any further.
And the septic pump is there too, but yeah.
And then he meets the code section for flag-shaped lots, so he's got the 60-foot road right away. His pole length is less than the maximum. And then there was only one other reason, one other thing in the flag-shaped lot that that was taken out recently was approval of the fire department, which the fire department asked to have that code section removed because he didn't think it was needed, so
Right.
that was removed.
So the buildings in the back, are they there, or that's our proposed buildings?
The buildings in the back?
This is the flag lot, correct, here?
No,
This is the one we're creating.
This is the building.
This is the current, okay, I had it upside down. So that's why I was confused, okay. And you're not sure what you're gonna put back there yet?
No, I was thinking, if we're doing planning to do a duplex, but these cost of building, I'm not sure I can justify that. Because you're limited by what rent you can get, not what really.
You're gonna see uptick in the homes on all these streets now that they're residential. It kind of hampered it being GC all the way down Howell Road all these years. And nobody's seen any businesses going down.
Where? How is that zoned then, residential? Is it multifamily or?
He can't put a duplex there.
Just a duplex?
He can't put a duplex there. It can't go more than
two.
Okay.
You could do 3 if you had room, right?
If you have room.
Yeah, which I don't have.
You don't have room.
Make sure I do.
Okay. Just so long as we don't need to worry about approving a duplex down the road.
Correct.
All we're doing is.
It'd be a permitted use.
Okay.
So he's just
It'd be a
looking
permitted
strictly
use.
for the flagship lot.
Okay. None of the neighbors have complained or? Okay.
No.
Do you have any questions from the board? Anybody representing opposition in the audience? Okay. Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the lot split as proposed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant the conditional use and allow the lot split as proposed. Have a roll call vote, please.
Bruce Ismay.
Yes.
Vince Barato.
Yes.
Sean Phillips.
Yes.
William Kramer.
Yes.
Lee Clark.
Yes.
And I will approve it on May the 6th.
And yes, I will approve it on May the 6th. Okay, our next one is a zoning variance application, Jason and Heather, Stanifiski? Stefanski, okay, sorry about that. Variance request, an application is requesting a variance to place their accessory building in the front yard of the lot. Per zoning resolution section 510-03A4, regulation of accessory buildings and structures that shall not be located in the front yard. So tell us, why do we want to put it in the front yard?
So, a little bit about my property. I did give a handout there. So my house is on Talmud Road, and the house is actually about 2,000 feet off the road.
Yeah.
It is a flag-shaped lot, and the building, where the building is located, is really the only place on the property where it could be. So it technically is in front of the house, but it's 1,862 feet from the road, and it's not visible from the road. I was under the impression that if you had greater than 5 acres, you could do an agricultural building, for which I do have an ag permit.
Okay.
So the building, where the building's located, to the side of the west of it, there's utilities there, there's electric, and there's a ground loop for the geothermal unit. And to the east of the house is a leach bed, and the property behind it is low-lying wet area. So there's also some photo documentation that has been submitted with that as well.
Okay. And the purpose of the building?
It's agricultural building. So we have a Schedule F small farm business. Basically, agricultural implements. My wife's a master gardener, so we grow stuff. We do animal husbandry as well. We sell eggs when the raccoons and coyotes are not.
Is this going to be a small store or just storage?
Right now, it's just storage. I don't know that I would get into having anybody. The reason why I'm 2,000 feet off the road is because I like to be private. So
if you're going to sell your eggs in the building, you put a little shed out in the street.
Yeah, we have gardens but hopefully it'll turn into eventually something where we'll have, sell produce down there. We have orchard and all that kind of stuff as well, so a lot of horticultural things.
I guess mostly just want to make sure that we're not going to turn this into a wood shop or a place to sell carpet out of, windows and doors and cabinets and whatnot.
No, that's down the street. I think there's a carpet.
Okay. So it's strictly personal use?
Correct.
For your own personal storage of vehicles, whatever?
Yes.
Okay. And it's kind of going to look like the house, or?
It's similar. It's got an asphalt roof, steel sided, just because of the it's kind of wet back there. So T111 doesn't usually live too long in those environments.
You said there will be lighting, electricity to the building?
Yeah, I still have to work. I guess I talked to somebody about the county about how to do that, getting a box and all that.
And being 1,800 feet off the road, we're not going to blind anybody with spotlights.
Are these pictures of just a rendition or?
That's it.
So you've already built it?
Yes, sir. Like I said, I was under the impression you could do an ag building if you had greater than 5 acres.
So this is if I may, this is a result of a complaint we followed up on. We had trouble seeing it. Lauren and I were out several times. We couldn't see it from the road. We tried to get access to the neighboring property. We still couldn't see it. We eventually did get pictures of it. Then we notified them, and they were like, "Hey, we thought we were agricultural. We thought, long story short, they can't have an agriculture building, which has got to be in the back. So they're here today for a variance in the front, and then that's where we're at."
The building's there already, is what you're saying?
Yes. Can I speak on this? So I honestly don't even want to be here. And unfortunately, my husband's out of town, so it gets to be me. There's been a water issue going on since 2019 from this property. I have documents with lawyers where we have tried to work with them. I can't help but wonder what other issues are going to come from this barn that had no permit, nobody looking at it. Are they forcing more water onto my property that they already did, and they've ruined my backyard? Talk about aesthetics in that allotment, that you want an aesthetic backyard. I look at a pond in my backyard. I already have one up front that I have to look at it. I don't need one in the backyard. If it rains, my son kayaks in it. It has become an ongoing joke. Now we have new neighbors. Are they forcing more water onto those neighbors? Nobody knows. They've been told by Portage Water and Soil multiple times to fix the water problem, and they just ignore it. That's why they ignored all of the zoning rules. They just went ahead and built it. Do I want to be here and be the bad guy? No. But do I want my yard? Yes. That's not fair. Everybody pays for their property to enjoy their yard. I have pictures where my kids used to play in my backyard. And it has eroded away so bad that now I have a valley in my backyard from them building up a driveway that wasn't properly put in.
So you've been,
So, if I may-
the water issues have been happening since the building was built or since before that?
No, since before that.
Okay.
That's why I can't help but worry that either the new neighbors that moved in are going to have problems that they're not gonna know of because they just moved in, so they're not gonna know that maybe that water wasn't there, or that I'm gonna have even more water.
So
We do have correspondence. I think I know who you are. So,
Yeah.
we did have correspondence from her back in 2021, May of 2021, if I'm not, if my memory is good. We reached out to the county as well about water issues because soil and water should be the one handling it. And then Brett got involved, our prosecutor, and I did talk to Brett, and he said it's a civil matter and that there was nothing that the county or the township could do in that respect. And that's when I got my email, saying, hey,
And
spoke
I
with Brett.
understand, but how many laws can you continue to break before something doesn't change?
So if I may speak,
Yes, go ahead.
so unrelated to this request for variance, there was a request from an attorney to put a throughway or pipe through our yard. That request was received to me on Christmas Eve, I think 20 or 21. It's a good Christmas present. We did come to or propose an agreement through my attorney to put a pipe through and split the cost and have, if the other neighbor on the other side would not have cause for any kind of action. That agreement did not happen and wasn't facilitated by the neighbors to the west of us. So there was no action moving forward. The other thing to note is that the driveway that I have, the guy that I hired worked for Land Conservancy for like 15 or 20 years. He went back. My driveway has actually been there about a decade prior to the neighbor's house being there. So as far as the driveway being put in, the driveway was already pre-existing. So that's unrelated to this, but that's a little bit of the story. There has been efforts to try to
make accommodations. It was close and stuff to do the work, and it went on, and it was a year with really no real response
No,
from the neighbor.
we sent you quotes, and we have permission from the new neighbors. The prior neighbor was selling his house, so obviously he wasn't going to speak on it when he was selling his house, which I respect. The new neighbors are like, why wouldn't they just put a pipe under it? Okay, I wanted to know your opinion on the situation.
If I may, and I don't mean to be mean, we're here for
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
the variance for
Thank you.
the
Well,
This is-
but I'm stating, the reason why I'm stating it is because how do we know that that building is to code and not going to force more water onto another neighbor?
So,
How long has the building been?
well, let me speak on that because agricultural buildings do not require, as you are aware, there is something in the building department that they have to file, I believe it's $15, and you declare it as an agricultural building. Okay.
We did that through the county.
And then once the building department approves that portion of it, that's all we can do, because it's an ag building.
With some exceptions.
With some exceptions.
Generally speaking, yeah.
This is one of them, the variance for being in the front yard. Because we permit these agricultural buildings, but they're typically in the backyards unless there's a hardship, and, that's why he's here.
So how long has the building been there?
Since about the middle, really, we started in the middle of 2020.
That's when you started building it?
Yes, sir.
So it's been there 2 years.
Yes.
And how long has the house been there? Is it an older house or?
It is built in '02,
Okay.
so 20 years.
And the drive you're referring to has been there since the house or before the house?
It's been there since, I believe, '86.
There's actually two driveways, there's roughed-in driveway, and then there's the driveway to the house. They were referring to the roughed-in driveway that
There's a
hadn't,
driveway.
they hadn't moved it over.
There's a drive been back there since '86. There's photo documentation.
Right, and you're using it or you have another?
That's my driveway.
That is your driveway, okay, that's all I asked, all I wanted to know.
So, this is about everything.
I mean, you have this survey drawing, I think, in front of you guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't see that one right off the bat. Okay. But I don't know, this doesn't have a driveway on it, though, does it?
It's a flight post, so you can
Okay.
see the long part there. That's basically all driveway. And where it opens up is our property and home.
Okay. I mean, if it had come before us originally, one of the things we would have asked would have been that the building does not contribute to any water leaving the property, but you don't believe that it does.
No, it's on the high point of the property of the driveway, to kind of come up.
It's an agricultural, I mean, there's.
I understand that, but if there's some impervious surfaces of the building, and the roof,
I understand.
and there's water coming off the roof because of the runoff from the roof, are you doing anything with that water? Or are you just allowing it to?
It just comes off. I mean, I
Her
guess I
property is-
don't understand.
I'm just saying, normally, if somebody comes in and, in a case that doesn't involve agricultural property, and they want to put the variance, they want to get a variance so they can put it somewhere that it's not supposed to be, that's one of the questions I would ask, okay, so is this gonna create water runoff from your property? And if so, what are you going to do to prevent it?
So looking at the building here, it doesn't look like he's directing water flow in any way.
I mean, it's taking the downspouts into a pipe, into an exit, into a water.
I don't even see gutters on it.
No, there's.
There's no gutters on it?
There's a gutter on the front, on the one side, but it goes into my yard, my front yard.
But that's what that means, you mitigate the water yourself by taking it off the roof into the gutter, down into a pipe that goes to an outfall somewhere, not just coming off and into the yard everywhere else. You have to mitigate that somewhere else.
Well, it goes into my front.
So we were going down.
You guys,
Yeah,
you guys
this is
are,
like-
you guys are a township.
And
I
our,
understand we're township.
And the counties are generally responsible for stormwater management, within unincorporated territories. I'm not aware of exactly what Portage's stormwater management plan is, but they'd have to comply with that to the extent it's not exempted by the agricultural use exemptions in the revised code. If you were a city or a village, obviously this would come before the planning commission for engineering review for stormwater purposes, but I think just the issue before you tonight.
No, I
is-
understand it's a variance,
Yeah.
but I guess normally it would, if it's conditional, we would look at an additional, an added condition that hopefully the owner would agree to.
the building is not even.
It's not conditional.
Right.
It's not, it's just a variance.
I mean, so far from their house too.
No, our house
I
is,
just don't wanna confuse
the building is not even in front of their
Yeah.
property.
Nowhere near
Okay.
their property.
It's on the
Right.
neighbor's property, actually, is like behind their property is where.
They have a building behind
So
their house
it's-
and ours is being.
To clarify, the building is on the opposite side of the property line of the neighbor that made the complaint.
And it's
And
probably
it's
1,200 feet
It's
back
about
there.
over 1,000 feet beyond where their backyard is, not even where their house is.
Just for information, that's all.
Yes, sir.
Just to repeat, the hardship would be, you can't put it behind it because, again,
It's a low-lying wet area.
it's already a
That's-
lying wet area
yeah.
behind your house.
It's not,
And then off to the other side, you have your geothermal.
yeah, the electric box and the geothermal are on the west side of the house, and on the east side of the house, there's a leach field.
Your septic.
for the septic.
So there's no other place on the property that it can go.
No, sir.
Do we have any other questions? Or discussion? So the side that doesn't have the gutter is, that's this gravel side?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve as the application is submitted.
We have a motion to approve the variance. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the variance as submitted. Roll call vote, please.
Bruce Steffenberg,
Yes.
Vince Bernardo,
Yes.
Sean Phillips,
No.
William Kramer,
Yes.
Clayton Powell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Not out of the corner.
I know, yeah.
And I've lost my agenda. Okay, you're Sandy?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Is there a way, so I was told by a former township employee that I could appeal the water documents with you guys? Is that something I'm allowed to do?
So, so when we reached out to the prosecuting attorney, that's
I
what
understand. And I get that, but I've been told living in the township, that's why we have the board of zoning appeals.
So from the Board of Zoning Appeals, the next level is the prosecuting attorney. So we asked the prosecutor's office, what can we do? Can they take it to the Board of Zoning? Because he said it is a non-issue for the township and the county, it's a dead issue. So that's why my email to you is that. According to the
So
prosecutor.
it's okay for me to come to your
It's a
house,
civil-
move in next door and destroy your
Well,
back?
That's why you have a civil remedy, and that's why you have
I
access
wouldn't
to
try,
an attorney.
they stopped.
Well, if they stop, your attorney could still pursue it.
Yeah, you know how much that is.
Yeah.
That's not, in the
That's the
United
problem,
States, in the
already
United
took time,
States,
now
that's the answer.
But yeah, it's a civil, because, all right, say we did act. I mean, we can, if the zoning inspector makes a decision, anybody can come in and say, I think he had a wrong decision. And that's why I'm here. Pay your money, make your application. We would listen to you and we would say, there's nothing we can do. Because if we went along with you and said they have to do this, they would just go, they could take it to court, which is their remedy to our decision. And immediately the judge would just say, that zoning board's out of their mind. They can't do this. I mean, we don't have the authority to do it.
And I'd be cautious about discussing this any further since the
Right.
applicant's already left.
So now at this point, it's a civil matter. Okay. And the last thing on the agenda is a conditional use application. Ben?
Ben's not here. He's actually one of my associates. My name is Brian Lorenz, Lorenz. It's 7007 Discovery Boulevard, Dublin, Ohio, 43017. I signed in.
So you're just.
I'm here representing him. That works for me.
So it is an application as requested, the applicant is requesting a conditional use approval for a building expansion. So this is the Walmart issue.
That's correct, right?
If you would, please.
Sure.
Tell us what it is.
Thanks for having us. This is a really exciting project. What we're looking to implement here in the store is a significant investment. This will be the second project, and what it does is it involves automation of pickup orders by almost building I don't want to say a warehouse, but basically an automated picking service that's checked by Walmart associates. And it involves the pickup program, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with or not. Basically, submit an online time, you come and your order's processed. All the retailers, grocers are doing that now. This is the second one that's proposed, and Mike, I can send you a little clip tomorrow or something. I just thought of it on the way out. There was a story on it on one of the networks. But the first one was implemented in Salem, New Hampshire. This is going to be the second one. And what it's also going to do, where it concerns, the board and the township, it'll help clean up and alleviate all that stuff that's on the outside, which I'm sure you guys were gonna.
That was one of the conditions that I was allowing them to come to the board. They said, all the shipping containers need to be
And I go all over. I go all over, the U.S. for them, and your interest in that is appreciated and well,
And you guys
well
did
understood.
listen, because I went past
Yeah.
yesterday, and it looks like there was all but one.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
There was about 20 of them at one point.
Yeah.
So
So
I appreciate that.
So the expansion area of the store is gonna go out where, on that elevation, it'll be closed up, all that stuff's gonna be gone. And, we're not gonna lose any parking spaces, we're still above whatever's required by, I don't know, maybe 50 or so. You know, the way that the board approves it through a conditional use permit, I'm not sure if one was granted for the store originally, so I don't know how the zoning worked back then, but you know, essentially we're just modifying what's there. But of course, the board has conditions and findings of fact on what validates a conditional use permit, right? So obviously we're actually retracting some of the, if you would call it blight, we're not generating any more noise, or you know, the traffic is still gonna come in and out, but we're not changing the site layout or any of those types of things. So I think it meets all those test items. And I'm just happy to answer any questions that you have.
So what they did is they did contact us prior to coming to the board. They met with Ron, who's the fire inspector, as well as myself, and we sat down and actually changed the plan.
Yep.
To meet all the codes that we needed, and they were very excited. I mean, they did everything we asked. So.
It was a really good experience for us to be able to facilitate that on behalf of our client and you know, bring something and try and you know, make a positive impact in your community.
So this is going where the garden center was?
It's on the elevation that's got the auto center and what, yeah.
Next to the
next to the
Yeah,
gas.
that's what's right by the gas station.
Yeah.
It's gotta look better.
It'll look a lot better.
Yeah, because they're gonna have to keep that free and clear, because you're gonna.
That's
keep
correct.
coming and going outside.
That's right.
So
Yep.
the auto center will be the same, will still be there? Or-
Yes.
No, it'll still be there.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You know, the one condition that I would recommend is that they keep that driveway patched.
Yeah, where the hole
I
is.
have more complaints on that hole.
There's a hole there that just magically.
Is that right?
Every so often.
Every so often?
Shows up.
It's probably back now, right?
Might be.
I
Might
think
be.
it is.
It was a bad one.
I was there.
Yeah.
They think it's a township road, that's why they call us.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, because it runs in between, yeah. All right. Sure.
Yeah, no, I know that everybody kind of has to swerve to the left. to get
Certainly.
around it all the time.
Okay, very good.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the best producing Walmarts
Yeah,
in the state.
and that's why they targeted this particular store.
So this would be actually something that customers won't go in.
That's correct. You'll still do your online order. It'll be processed differently. I mean, they've got robotic stuff in there that's picking things out, and then, you know, so an actual human will check on it. Whereas, I don't know if you guys have Kroger up here with Giant Eagle, right? So Giant Eagle, yeah, we have where I live, and you know, they have the people going around and doing the shopping. This one is it's like a warehouse inside with, you know, the items, and it'll be picked and then put on an internal conveyor.
So you won't have those people blocking the aisles all day long?
No. No?
So you have a second, now they'll have everything that's in the main store where people
No,
are
but
shopping.
is there
also-
anywhere-
That I don't know. I'm gonna say it's probably a little bit more limited. And you know, I get that question a lot. They're like, well, can you buy alcohol or, you know, guns or whatever, and that, you know, other items like that. And generally those are specialty things that have to be checked.
I mean, you're just not having robots going up and down the aisle.
No, this will be separate, and it won't have, only store employees will be able to access that area. Yeah, good question.
So it's actually just a warehouse with everything that I can.
It's a stock room, it's basically a stock room that's automated with robotics.
So it should, may not eliminate, but should cut down on the number of those in-store shoppers.
That's correct, yes.
With their overload.
And it'll, you know, and build efficiencies and, you know, and it, you know, it may or may not track your shopping habits, but, you know, that's not really germane to the
Anything you buy online, so you track it.
That's right.
It doesn't matter.
Is your addition affecting anything in the store, the layout of the store at all?
The whole interior is gonna be altered.
Yeah,
Oh,
So
yeah, they started over and.
Yeah, on top of that, we already did a building permit for that. So this is phase two. You know, my client likes to change direction and where they can find efficiencies in value versus, you know, the performance of a store. They'll want to try new things out. So we came back, maybe it's 9 months ago and did an interior alteration. That's some of the work you're seeing now. So this is now, they've decided to add in phase two.
So, but it won't affect that newly remodeled area?
No, sir, no, no.
And we're only charging you on a square foot that you change, so.
That sounds
It's
good.
hard.
So this will be a separate building altogether. It won't be attached?
It's an expansion.
It will be attached.
It will be attached, yes.
You won't be able to get to it.
But you will not, you or I will not have access to it, yes.
We're looking at, you know, his overall square foot is 203,818. The square foot addition is 10,619.
Yeah.
So it'll just approach
So it's not
the
big.
gas station.
Yeah, so you know how it is now with all those racks or whatever's out there now.
Right.
It won't come out that far, but that's where it'll be, kind of fill that spot in. And to your point, it'll actually reduce where those containers and things are now. So open it up a little bit.
And the only thing that we're here for the conditional use is so the original one was brought to you guys as a conditional use, so we're altering that conditional use with the 10,000 square foot. Interior, we've got already, and that's approvable. It's just this addition of the 10,000.
So setbacks will be still all right.
Setbacks, everything looked good because their property line goes beyond the gas station.
Okay.
So they're not even getting close to the gas station.
So we don't need, or it's gonna be like pretty much same height. all
Yes.
that's the same.
Yes.
And people will pick up there, or will they still pick up out front in the middle of the
They'll
parking
pick
lot?
up there where the expansion is.
Okay.
There's
I thought I seen like some garage.
There's a little
doors
drive
there.
up door, yeah.
Yeah, a little drive up.
Little
door.
right
That's
up.
where all the pickup will be now.
Yes.
Believe it or not, with the opening of Meyer and Menards,
Their
they're
business
busier
increased.
than they were prior to that. So I think Meyer has helped them improve their business.
Yeah.
And you know, Meyer was doing some of those for a while. I don't know if they did any in Ohio. I did some for them in Michigan. You know, like you said, Giant Eagle's got their set up, and I'm sure that Menards has something.
I
too,
haven't
but-
seen Meyer do it here yet.
Yeah, I don't think they have. They were like north and west central Michigan, closer to Grand Rapids, but yeah, I haven't seen any of those here either, or where I'm at either.
Okay. Any more, lighting, all that, none of that'll be affected. That'll
That's right.
stay the
Everything
same.
will stay the same. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve their request for conditional.
We have a motion to approve the conditional permit as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second to approve the conditional permit as submitted. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, Bruce Entenberg,
Yes.
Jim Barato,
Yes.
Sean Phillips,
Yes.
Lynn Kramer,
Yes.
Dave Papa.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right. What do you got?
We're on,
There now. Okay, so we now have minutes from February and October to approve.
You want to hold off on, you want to hold off on that October and still.
You already can
you already
table that. for now.
Right, we continued that, tabled that. Okay, so we just have February to approve.
Make a motion, we approve the February minutes.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve February. Roll call vote, please.
Bruce Entenberg,
Yes.
Jim Barato.
Yes.
Sean Phillips.
Yes.
Lynn Kramer,
Yes.
Dave Papa.
Yes.
Are we signing anything tonight?
No, not
Okay.
tonight.
Eventually.
May the 6th.
Okay, do we have anything for the good of the order?
Yes, I do. So I want to thank Mark for coming tonight. I knew that there was going to be an attorney here for, representing developer of Old Point. Mark is also here. It's a dual thing. He wanted to see how the board acts. The trustees have asked Mark to do annual training for both Board of Zoning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals. So while Mark is here, I'd like to work on a date when he could come in either prior to a meeting or on a separate night, or whenever you guys are available. I'll make myself available as well. And that way, every year, the board gets trained in new things or whatever's up and coming with the law and keep us honest. So.
Yeah, we gave the refresher training with the zoning commission. I can't remember when that was.
The fall.
Was it in the fall?
Yeah.
So I think that was under 2 hours. You know, I know it's nobody's favorite thing to do to sit and listen to an attorney blab, but hopefully, make it at least somewhat practical and insightful for you guys. I think you do a very nice job for your residents. So it's just a refresher. And if you think of anything in advance that you want to cover, you have questions on, I'll give you my cards, email me, call me, whatever you want to do, and I'd be happy to cover anything specific that you'd like. That being said, is there a preferred date, time of the week that works for you guys? If you want to do it on a meeting night, because that makes for a very long evening.
night.
So maybe an off night would be preferable. I could tell you.
Second Wednesday is the only one that's bad for me. Anything else is fine.
How about June 1st?
Yeah, I can do that.
June 1st will work for me.
Works for me.
What time works for the board?
Keep it at 7. Is that, or does anybody want to do it earlier? I don't want to press anybody with work.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. I don't work that day.
Yeah, and I'd like to make sure that we get pizzazz that night, Vince. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Give my wife the.
Great.
Okay.
I could be here by 6, but.
What time we want to do this, June 1st?
Well, I can do it anytime. If 7's preferable to keep your normal time, that's fine. You guys tell me what.
So you're thinking 2 hours, 7 to 9?
Yeah, you can keep it within that, depending, how many questions everybody has, but.
I mean, tonight we went to 9:20, so. I mean, that's fine with me. I think.
Okay.
And then one of the questions I'm going to ask you is if the per diem can be bumped up. I know that $75 per diem for meeting has been set for years and years and years. Has that changed?
I'm sure that's set by trustee resolution.
Right, and I can bring it to the trustees. I just don't know what that limit is, because I would like to bump it up just so that everybody the per diem could cost, going out to the site, the prep that the members have to take, when we get stuff like this, and they're going out to Walmart and they're driving around and they're going to the other ones looking at variances in Walton Point and taking a look at it. It just makes sense to up the per diem.
Okay, yeah, I can take a look at that.
Okay. Especially with gas prices.
Gas prices go up?
We should have asked Walmart if they're going to lower the gas prices.
Yeah.
Mike, is it easier for you or is it easier for everybody else to do like 6 o'clock? Is that too
Whatever
early?
is easy. I'll make whatever you guys say.
I mean, you have to then go
I'm
home
on-
and then
I'm
come
on
back.
salary. No, I stay here. I
No?
stay here the whole time. Yeah. My wife is 5 generations of Brimfield, so believe me. She's at her sister's.
The inconvenience with anybody that would work till 5 or 5:30 to get home and then get here by 6. So, I mean, me,
First, hey, I don't care. 6,
I'm in the same.
6:37, whatever everybody wants to do. I'm good.
Okay, let's compromise 6:30. That way everybody's.
There you go, 6:30.
Okay.
Is that good for everyone?
I will see you then.
6:30.
And like I said, please, if there's something specific that's come up in a previous case that you're kind of wondering about or want some kind of more thorough explanation on, those are always kind of good discussion topics to have. So.
I have some questions about Walden Pony.
I do too.
Got some answers for you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. to
Anything,
adjourn.
anything else for good of the order? Do we have anything for next month?
Not yet.
Other than the marathon that you guys.
Yeah.
Well, we tabled it, so if we don't have anything else and they don't want to show up.
Correct. We'll make sure that they're coming.
Okay. So we will have one next month. So going back to the calendar. That is May 18th. So at a minimum, we have the marathon one to do. Okay. Now we'll take any other motion. You were heading there.
Oh, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. Roll call vote, please.
Bruce Wittenberg.
Yes.
Chris Bronco.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Lynn Cameron.
Yes.
Yes.
Adjourn.
That was a productive day.
Yep.